Coming to the closing ceremony of this conference, I would call Christophe Nuttall, the Executive Director of R20, to join me. James Rogers, Director of Global Sustainable Electricity Partnership. Hello. Vel van der Weert, Director of the Environment and Energy Group, UNDP. And Terry Taminan, Strategic Advisor of R20. Okay. You can sit.
I go?
You go.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. So we are now coming to an end. Wow, it was a big event. I can tell you on our side from R20, it's a beginning of a dream which is coming to reality. I mean, it has been 10 years I've been working within the UN and now with R20. And you have seen, I would say, a great difference. And I think Vienna conference will be a kind of a shift between before and after. Why I'm saying that? Because when you have someone like Barroso, when you have someone like Jem Keller, who are so, I would say, powerful, so keen, so, I would say, understanding that we have a number of failures, a number of barriers, and that they do understand that the bottom-up is the right approach, that subnational are the one to do it, that all this partnership working hand in hand between the different forces, whether they are the civil society, the academics, the NGO, the utilities, with the private sector, the finance institutions, the national government, the intergovernmental body, the UN system, the development banks, etc., etc. This is the way how we should work. And R20 is really showing the path that we can make it. And I think this panel that we have at the end really represents these forces. With, I would say, the utilities, and we have here the top, I would say, 15 or 18 electricity companies around the world, where we are building a partnership together in order to scale up those renewable energy projects all around the world. And we have here, I would say, the best expertise in terms of renewable energy within those big companies, willing to work with subnational authorities. And this is very important. On the other hand, we have the UN, who was, I would say, exclusively dedicated to national government, who do understand the role of subnational. So you have heard, of course, Kende Jem Keller yesterday, but I would like also to acknowledge what UNDP has been doing this last 10 years to force, I would say, the UN to recognize the role within the United Nations, recognize the role of subnational, to have that in the text, but to have that in the reality. And if R20 is born somehow, it is also thanks to UNDP, who have allowed a number of works, a number of research, a number of finance to put on those ideas. And last but not least, of course, Terry was the one, I mean, you see the big picture with Schwarzenegger, who was the political leadership, but here you have a person who have made the real things doing on the day-to-day basis, working from his computer, working with the different people who did it happen. And for the last, I would say, 12 months since the first R20 conference in Geneva last year, we have been able to really demonstrate that we can work all together. We have been able to identify a strong portfolio of projects, even though it is still modest according to what we have to achieve globally in this planet. But you are showing the path that we can really work together. We can really develop bankable projects. We can really knock at the door on a number of investors who have started to put money in. And you have heard Governor Schwarzenegger to say that we have got already our first $150 million deal. So this dream is coming to reality. It is only the beginning. What I hope that within the next year, we will be able to not multiply by 2 or 3, but at least multiply by 10, because we have been able to join our different forces. And then you have all those bottom-up action coming from the subnational government, pulling also the civil society in making sure that there is something that they can gain out of it. It's not anymore, I would say, constraint of all these big figures that make you afraid about what climate change is, but they can gain out of it when they have nice, I would say, cities, when they have, I would say, their bill, energy bill, being reduced. I mean, there are a number of comparative advantages that the citizen will feel because they have a direct relation with their mayor, with their president of region. The minister is too far away. I mean, people don't love like politicians, but your mayor is something different. You give the vote for him, he defends what you want, and you can get rid of him. You can vote for the next time and really get rid of it. So this is really the person that can make the difference, and the citizen can really feel it. So I want just to share my personal thought. I had at first, I wanted to make a kind of a synthesis of all the different plenaries. I have a staff who has worked on it. I have here a 10-page note, but I don't want to go over that. This is so rich. There's been so many things being said, so many innovation, and the last one that we just have seen, that we are going to make the report and send that to you. So I just want to stop here to testimony to know how powerful that we can be and we start to be all together. So I thank you very much for that.
Thank you. Mr. Rogers?
Thank you. Christophe, thank you very much for including us. I sit here today representing 14 companies around the world where hundreds of millions of people wake up every morning counting on us when they throw the switch that the electricity comes on and they can live their lives and their computers come on so they can do their business. So we have a special responsibility. But let me share briefly kind of my reflections on the last 2 days. I think we've been inspired about the possibilities. And if I had to summarize what I've heard, it's be open to the possibilities. In some ways, our companies represent the old school. When I look at all the innovation that's occurring, but even within our companies, there is a reinvention going on, not just in how we supply electricity and the different ways we invest in renewables and modernize our system, but we're also investing on the other side of the meter and helping customers use energy better in a more productive way. And that's an important part of what we do. But as I sit and listen, I would caution that we should avoid the tyranny of either or. It either from the bottom or from the top. I think we do both. We should avoid the tyranny of it's affordable versus clean. It can't be both. I believe through innovation and technology development, you can be both affordable as well as clean. Because most people argue that you can't do both. I think we must do both for the future of our economies as well as the future of our environment. So avoiding the tyranny of either or, to me, is very, very important. And I've heard that theme, and again, it's the open to the possibilities. With respect to the developing world, we have a special responsibility there to bring electricity to the 1.3 billion people. Mr. Umkele could have not said it better than he did, and I think that's something that we have a responsibility to help to bring commercial understanding to social objectives. But I thought in the last panel, the suggestion that we need to not give it away, but to structure it so people own it is the way we are thinking about it in the best way forward. The last thing I would say is this. And this is one of the reasons I am so delighted to have been part of this. Because in a sense, what Governor Schwarzenegger and Christophe are doing, they are doing what I call cathedral building. What I mean by that is they have embedded in what they do cathedral thinking. And to me, what that means is to look at the great cathedrals here in this city. The architect who designed it never saw it completed. Those who worked on the foundation never saw the walls or the stained glass windows. Those who worked on the walls never saw the spires. Those who saw it completed in the first year never saw the weddings, the funerals, the experiences that occurred over hundreds and hundreds of years later. We need that kind of cathedral thinking to transform how we provide energy, how we drive our economy. We can do that. But I will caution, we need to do it on Chinatown. Thank y'all very much.
Thank you. It's your turn.
Thank you and good afternoon. First of all, Christophe, thanks for your kind words on behalf for UNDP. You know, when the Austrian governor of California, you know, spoke to us yesterday morning, he said that he felt that this room was fired up. And I really hope that those of us who were here till the end of this conference, that we are fired up at even a higher level, and that we all go home with the determination, you know, that we're really going to do more to make sustainable energy future for all a reality. Be it, you know, by being more efficient, being by greening our economies, or being our industries, or being maybe by contributing to R20 or the sustainable energy for all. I just would like, from where I'm sitting, to just give you 4 take-home messages, things I will remember this conference for. And of course, like you rightly say, Christophe, this conference has been very rich. Excellent presentations, excellent examples, great insights. But from where I'm sitting, you know, what I think was really great is seeing this Sustainable Energy for All initiative of the Secretary General and led by Kandemir Kella coming together with the R20 founded by Arnold Schwarzenegger. I think there is a mutual partnership and a mutual beneficial relation there between, you know, a global initiative to promote universal energy access for all and R20, who is working at a subnational level, real action on the ground. And I think this natural partnership between these 2 initiatives was demonstrated here and I hope has a great future. So that was number 1. Number 2, I think like most of us, I really enjoyed the first morning. You know, where you could see how CEFA and R20 brought the best of the outreach to bear. And of course, all of us in this room are convinced that sustainable energy, energy efficiency, renewable is the way to go forward. But I think we also all know that when you go and leave this room, in the street, 90% of the people, maybe not in Holland, from what I understand from the governor, but in most other regions, you know, they just want to continue business as usual. And we need outreach, we need the media, we need to preach the message so that indeed the people are asking for renewable energy, are asking for a sustainable energy future. And that was a great achievement of this conference. The third one was, of course, from a UNDP perspective, and my colleague was talking about this one, that this conference brought forth so strongly that energy and poverty reduction are 2 sides of one coin. That energy access, climate change, inclusive green economy, you know, are really things, key characteristics that have to go together. And there is only one way to go to a more sustainable world, is indeed, you know, by going into sustainable energy. And therefore I must thank all the speakers for the tremendous amount of examples they have given. I certainly go home with a whole pile of new examples, new insights, new concrete ways on which, you know, we can have sustainable energy for all. And with a network of 166 countries, like my colleague was saying, on the ground, doing the work day by day, you know, the contribution from this conference to the work we are doing is indeed very great. And then maybe a last point, and I think it's also an important point, and again relates to the R20 very much. You know, when we're sitting here, it's clear we can do it. But it's not so easy, that we also have heard. And it really requires innovative financing. And again, I really do appreciate what R20 is doing, trying to bring local communities, local governments, municipalities, you know, together to make good bankable projects and then to bring them together with the financiers at the local, domestic, international level to make this change from business as usual to business unusual possible. So I think this was a great conference. I want to thank all of you. thank in particular R20. I hope you will continue your great work. I hope, sustainable energy for all will be in reality, certainly by 2030. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, it's hard to follow that. And obviously, I stand between you and a Friday night cold beverage somewhere, I'm sure, or maybe even an airplane to go home, or like my colleague Christoph, maybe it's an airplane to the ski resort. But in any event, I want to, in order to sort of not just look back 2 days, but I want to look back 7 years. It was June of 2005. When Governor Schwarzenegger stood in the San Francisco City Hall and he said, "The science is in, the debate is over, and the time for action is now." And I think those may be the best words to close this conference with. So in order to summarize the piece of action that I think we need to take, you'll forgive me if I say it's also time to take off our jackets, to roll up our sleeves, to take off our ties, and I swear that's where I'm going to end. And let's get to work. Now, what do I mean by that? What's the missing ingredient? What's the missing ingredient in all of this? You've heard all of these great ideas. You've heard all of this great passion and inspiration. You've heard from government, from academia, from NGOs, from technology providers, from finance, from inspirational leaders, from awards. Every aspect of society has addressed us over the last 2 days and has given us a piece of this very complicated recipe that, if it comes out, will taste sweeter than Kaiserschmarrn. I had some good stuff the other night. But the one thing that I still think may be missing in some of this discussion is the individual. Now, last night, Governor Schwarzenegger spoke to 1,000 students at a local university, or actually at the library here, but sponsored by local universities. And Bonnie Reese, who is the director of the Schwarzenegger Public Policy Institute at the University of Southern California, she gave a quote that I think says it best. It came from George Bernard Shaw, who said, "Most people see the world as it is, and they ask why. Some people see the world as it could be, and they ask, why not?" And that's the quote that I want to leave you with, because that's the call to action that I think really must resonate as we all leave this venue today and we go back to our homes and our offices and we try to think about how to capture what we heard these last 2 days and how to leverage it and do something with it. It's up to the individual. It's not just up to, you heard Governor Schwarzenegger talk about subnational governments not waiting for their national governments or for their international institutions. Well, what about us? You heard about businesses saying, well, I'm not going to just wait, I'm going to invent something and I'm going to try to push it into the marketplace. But what about us as consumers buying those products? What role do each of us have? And that's the part that I want to try to capture in these last few seconds. We've got great examples of that we've seen throughout the last couple of days, but there's none better that exemplifies the international opportunity and connectivity that we all have as we walk out of here than two people who are sitting right here in the second row. And just because they stuck around this long, I want to recognize Jerry Mills of Jerry Mills Industries. Jerry, stand up, and Gloria Wang. Gloria, stand up as well. Give them a great big round of applause. Wave, turn around, wave. Make sure everybody knows who you are. You should talk to them later. Why do I single them out? Because Gloria came from China to Dallas, Texas, and she bought some vacant farmland that wasn't very good, it wasn't very productive, but do you know what was on that farmland? Transmission lines. Most people would have seen that as a liability. Oh my God, I can't use half of my land because transmission lines are going over it. She saw it as an opportunity, and she found Jerry, and Jerry puts solar panels on rooftops, thousands of them, millions of them. He also works with Wally Zhang, who you heard from earlier from Westech, who has some of the most innovative solar thermal technology, and he puts those on rooftops. And the two of them together said, well, what would happen if we brought some of the best solar technology from around the world to this vacant land in Dallas and fed energy to those power lines that are running across your land. And so that's what they're going to do. They're going to build a power plant. They're not waiting for the government. They're not waiting for Jim's utility to give them permission. They're going out there and they're going to do it. And you know what else they did? They said, well, you know, in the United States, we already get the idea of putting photovoltaic on rooftops, but nobody thinks about heating their water from the sun the way they do in other countries. And so as I mentioned, they brought Wally over with his technology, but there were all kinds of barriers, all kinds of city codes and reasons why you couldn't do it. So do you know what they did? They started an academy to teach roofers and plumbers how to put that technology on the roof, give them a certificate that would be honored by the building codes, by the local cities, so now those plumbers can go out and help people put that up on their rooftop and start saving energy from their water heating as well as photovoltaics for their electricity. That's the international part. What are the chances when these two people grew up as young people that they would ever work together? I mean, no offense, but look at them. There's no way that those two, when they were in their teens or in their 20s, could ever have predicted that they would work together, that they would make a profitable business together. And that is the real key, that they would do well and do good at the same time, that they would make the world more sustainable. They did it by rolling up their sleeves, taking off their jackets and their ties, going out there and walking the land, going to China, spending sleepless nights figuring out how to make this work, going back and forth, coming to conferences like this, and partnering with one another. I've watched them over dinner talking at times, and they can't understand each other, but they still found out a way to work together and to make it work. And so give them another great big round of applause. Because they exemplify this call to personal action, not just being personally inspired and hoping the government and business will do it, but doing it yourself. I also want to acknowledge two people from the R20 who have gone out under their own steam, their own power, very often their own money, their own time, to make this happen in other countries. George Pinheiro Machado, who is our R20 director from Brazil, please stand up. And Dr. Yufu Chang, who is our China director, please stand up. Both of these people came to Christoph and to me and they said, we so believe in what you're doing, we want to represent you in our respective countries. And they put together the teams to make it possible for us to be doing projects, to be recruiting partners and members, and to make projects happen. And it's so exciting to be working with people who, as that quote said, see the world as it could be and say, why not? So that's what I want to leave you with today. It's not up to governments, it's not up to business, it's not up to academia, it's up to each and every one of us. And it's up to each and every one of us to take these lessons and go out and teach them to others. Not just to be content that we know and we're all talking to each other, we're all preaching to the choir. That's not good enough. When you go out of here tonight, you've got to think about who in my family is not yet convinced that I could convince to turn off the lights or the shower, as Governor Schwarzenegger had to convince his kids. Who in my workplace could I convince to put in an LED light bulb and get rid of those incandescents that they have, maybe even overhanging their desk or that they're using at home? Who at my church or my synagogue or my temple, who in my other walks of life could I possibly convince? We've all got to be evangelists about this. And I'm sorry I don't know all these words in German. Ich spreche doch ein bisschen Deutsch, aber nicht so gut. So we all have to be evangelists about this. Wie sagt man Evangelist auf Deutsch? Wer weiß das?
Prediger oder? Prediger?
All right, I'm hearing a bunch of answers. Whatever they are, but the point is, we've all got to go out on our soapbox, and today is Friday, so that means in 2 days it's Sunday. Let's go out to our pulpits and preach green, and preach possible, and preach what we can do, not what is in our way and what we cannot do. But who among us will be the first to say that I can do with a little less, that my children will have a little more? Who among us will be the first to say that my life will not only be measured by the number on the bottom of a balance sheet, but by the balance of clean air and clean water and healthy landscapes that I bequeath to my children? And who among us will be the first to answer the call to action that rang out across the United States 5 decades ago when a president of the United States asked us to ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. Well, regardless of what country you come from, regardless of what region in a country you come from, the most patriotic thing every one of us can do as we walk out of here tonight is to go be evangelists for this green economy and this low-carbon economic development future that will give us a world we can all be proud of, and a world where we can all answer that question, why not? Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you. Well, yeah, thank you.